Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Valley of the Judged. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me, as always, is my good brother here in the temple, the man of 1,000 runes, the CEO of Zadare Enterprises, and the bane of my fucking existence, good brother Xanatrix.
The Dark Enterprises would like to remind you that you are not dreaming. This is not a deja vu. You do not need to adjust your television set. You're not in the Twilight Zone. We are, in fact, in anime world with your favorite anime girl, the monk, and it's time for tabletop RPGs.
Yes. So, I will note that this was a bit impromptu. And in the interest of full disclosure, with what we're covering, we ended up getting this as a media copy, essentially.
We were given early access to the starter set by R. Talsorian Games.
Mm-hmm.
And in the interest of full disclosure, they did tell us that the only rules and regulations we need to follow regarding this review are their homebrew content guide regulations on their website. This is a question I always ask, and I'm sure a question Monk would ask if he were the one sending the emails. But if there had been any attempt to somehow control our ultimate review, in the end, we would not have asked for a media copy. We would have said, okay, thank you, goodbye.
Yeah. And I will note that this kind of setup is not far removed from what they did with Cyberpunk Red. They did a quick start and then they did a starter box set. The quick start they referred to as easy mode, and the file for Eyes in the Darkness actually had it as such. So old habits die hard, I suppose. Now, truth be told, this is something that is going to be best served in a physical version compared to the quick start we covered previously. That's because this is not in one document. This is spread out across 13 PDFs. Because again, this is meant to be a starter box set, and that's something to keep in mind. Now, in the description on the YouTube version of this, I do have the links for both the digital and the physical version. The physical version straight from R. Talsorian Games' website, the digital version from DriveThruRPG. Now, because of that, the page count is something that we can't really dive into because everything is separated. And I will admit this was a topic that was going to be tricky for us once we finally got our hands on it, because a good chunk of the stuff here, crunch-wise, is stuff that we've already talked about when we covered the quick start Eyes in the Darkness. There are a few things specifically that we will be covering, and some of it is going to be us getting into the weeds, but we wanted to do our best to not completely repeat ourselves from the past episode.
Yeah. And a few things that are different between all of these. We have some, due to how things are separated, we have some, I guess, better sectioning comparatively. But many of the things we commented on in Eyes in the Darkness when we were looking at mechanics are still, from what I can see, the same sections. I will have to check and look for any differences between the two, which I don't believe so.
I think that if there's any differences here, they're going to be in the minute level that's outside of the realm of what we cover.
Yes. But some of the more interesting things, and some of the things I think we should at least cover a little bit. The lore book has that section on Refuge and the Shadowscar Agency, but there's actually now a section on the history of ninjutsu and larger profiles about the clans.
Yeah.
Including a profile about some of the bad guys, like the Syndicate, the Hollow Eye Syndicate, and the Yokai. Mm-hmm. And of course, the pre-generated characters we kind of glossed over a little bit last time, but now these are full pre-gen sheets. They have uh, profiles for each character, and we might take and they have the improvement sheet for each character as well, which they didn't in Eyes of the Darkness because it was probably assumed that that one shot was small enough that no improvement would occur.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There is one other thing I want to cover that was in the intro sheet, which is a 2-page thing.
Oh, you mean the glossary?
Yeah, well, the glossary is one thing. The other thing to cover is that it does the 6-point list of things to expect, which is a nice way of getting the point across as far as what this is supposed to be. Learn the ways of ninjutsu, assassinate deadly foes, foil complicated plans, work with powerful factions, explore the mosaic, and hunt down rogue agents. And of course, afterwards is a glossary of key terms, and each one has a pronunciation guide. And that's the real important part I wanted to highlight.
Yeah.
Now, I think if you're a sufficient enough weeb, which if you're playing a game like Shadowscar, you probably are, some of these pronunciation guides will be a bit more second nature to you because you've heard them a lot if you're listening to anime in sub.
You've also likely taken a look at the proper pronunciation for kana, and so you understand how Romaji looks when it's made into Romaji and how it sounds.
Yeah. For in my not so humble opinion, Japanese is a relatively easier language to pronounce when you're comparing East Asian languages.
I would say that out of all of the East Asian languages that are popular, which is to say Chinese, Korean, and Japanese might be the easiest pronunciation wise. With a caveat there, I do have to make a very, very large caveat. You can get the sounds correctly pretty easily because once you know that everything is based around 5 in Romaji vowel sounds, because A, E, I, O, U, as everybody knows, but that's not the order they write it in. They write it in A, U, I, E, O. And those sounds are very, very simple. A, I, U, E, O. A-U-A-O. And then all sounds are built off of that with different consonant sounds before a vowel. The only one that is an exception is the word, I can't say ender, but a glottal end called n. It's just an n sound. Like in the English loanword for hammer, it's hanma. You can hear that n in there just a little bit, hanma. And that is a glottal stop in Japanese, but the sounds all stem from those two, I would say, constants. Then there's pitch accents when it comes to words, and well, that's you don't have the insanity that is the 5 pitch accents of every syllable in Chinese. Words do have pitch accents in Japanese that can be one of 4 varieties. Heiban, where it goes straight, and I'm not going to get the names of the rest of these correct, but there's one where it starts a little higher and goes low, another one where it starts a little lower and goes high, and then the third one where it can start high, go low, and high again, or start low, go high, then low again. And depending on what you say, can in context in a conversation where you're not writing things out, determine which word you're using, because there are a lot of homophones in Japanese, like the word ki, meaning what most people think of it as, energy, but there's also ki, which is tree.
That's why we have to put a caveat. And truth be told, as tempting as it would be for some, and hold on a sec, I forgot to hit the music.
Oh,
so you guys should start hearing music proper. This is something I'm trying to add to future streams. But as tempting as it would be to throw stones when it comes to this or that language. As somebody who's studied it a little bit, though I'm by no means a polyglot, all languages have their varying forms of bullshit. Some of them more than others. Once again, I'm looking squarely at you, Arabic.
I'm okay. So I'm gonna have to play a little bit of devil's advocate here, Monk. Sure, Arabic has a tense only for when you were talking to two other people in the same conversation. Sure, Arabic has completely different words for every plural. This, for example, if I were to do this in English, people, this would be like saying the word horse for a singular horse, and then making up a completely different word like lazinta for the plural of horse.
Mm-hmm.
Makes no sense, but it's still not as bullshit as the most popular language on the face of the earth, Chinese. And I can already hear I can already hear the CCP screaming at me. I can already hear some other people going, "How dare you be racist to the Chinese?" I'm not being racist. Theirs is, by and large, even though the most prevalent language, because there's over 2 billion people who speak it, is also the hardest for anyone that is not native Chinese to learn, because of the tones and how many of them there are, and how that changes a word, which leads me to also recommend go watch the semi-joke series Chinese for Lazy American People. It's an old animation series by someone who knows Chinese, makes a joke about the word for horse and a few other things depending on the tone. It is, and that is just in the most standard dialect of Mandarin. Other dialects have different tones, and in some cases different readings for the same Chinese character. And I think I heard that one of the Cantonese dialects, yes, Cantonese is a group of dialects, people. You may have heard of Cantonese as a dialect. No, it's a group of dialects. It has like 7 or 8 tones. I'm like, fuck that shit. No. But we're railsing here, Monk.
Yeah. Getting back on the rails, I do have to laugh when I look at the cast and crew, because I see a familiar name in the editing in Matt Click, who's been in the temple before. But when it comes to the lore book, a good amount of some of the stuff that's in here we covered last time. Though there is some very nice splash art this time around that I think does a very good job of further introducing the look of the world.
We had this splash art in the first one too,
but not all of it. Like the image that's on pages 2 and 3 of the lore book, that wasn't in the quick start.
Yes. But I'm saying, like, the splash art for the realms, we definitely had.
Yeah.
We also had, the art that we see in Welcome to the Agency and the Veil War.
Yeah. There is also a very nice, a very nice diagram of the different parts of the mosaic.
Mm-hmm.
Right at the top of that.
Yeah, and it's a map made by Cody Pondsmith.
Mm-hmm. And the whole Utsuchiyo and Kakuryō, was that something that we covered previously?
I don't think Utsuchiyo and Kakuryō were covered, no.
So I think that's something we should dip into.
Well, we should start at the mosaic, because this entire section was not in the original one.
Yeah.
Or not in Eyes in the Darkness, excuse me. Let me be very specific here, because I do want to make sure that we do differentiate properly.
Yeah, and for that reason, I have the original quick start in a separate tab. so I can double check on these kind of things.
I have all of the documents in separate tabs.
Well, of course you do. You have all of the damn tabs.
Reminder, everybody, I have 7 windows and a little over 1,800 tabs open between the 7. No, that is not an exaggeration. That is the actual amount of tabs I have open in WaterFox.
And yeah, I double checked it wasn't in there. So as far as the description of the mosaic, since it's from that same narrator that we had before, I'll
yes,
let you take
our Dai Tengu Fugenbo.
Yep.
Okay. When I say the word mosaic, I'm sure you conjure a specific image in your mind. A beautiful piece of art composed from hundreds of tiles to form a stunning pattern. And in a way, this is quite apt. You see, we've only truly explored a few other worlds besides our homeland of Nakatsukuni, but even at this surface level, you would be amazed at what we have found. Many agents, especially those from Refuge, assumed that the mosaic would be a sea of endless fractals, created by butterfly effects where every possibility was true. They talked frequently about some form of multiverse theory. But this is far from the truth. So far, the worlds the agency has explored are unique and vibrant, like the individual tiles of a great mosaic, hence the name. Beyond our area of operations, explorers have reported finding a world reclaimed by mutant plant life. A world perpetually trapped in the idyllic vision of 1950s Americana. Oh, I want to go there. And a world where humans traverse endless oceans on ships as big as cities. Mega Man Legends, is that you? Of course, to natives of Nakatsukuni, like myself, none of this is surprising. It is a well-known fact that the Koto Amatsukami... Okay. Okay. I have to stop for just a second. I know what that is. I know what that is. Thank you, Cody, for throwing out enough folklore for those of us who have done the deep dive to pick up little tidbits here and there. I love it. It is a well-known fact that the Koto Amatsukami created our world, so it stands to reason that other spirits created the other worlds. But strangely, we have yet to ever encounter another spirit like our celestial precursors. Then, the in-between. As long as we are discussing the mosaic, it would be a fine time to tell you about the in-between. You see, the many worlds of the mosaic aren't bunched up like soap bubbles. No, they float in a vast expanse we call the void, or the in-between. If one must travel from one world to another, they must first cross through this liminal space. Ah, shit, it's the back rooms. Now, this travel poses no problem for the Kami, but mortals were never meant to escape the confines of their realms. When thrust into the space between worlds, a mortal has almost no way to truly control their motion, and they usually wind up floating in the in-between until they fall into a world. Considering the fact that the vast majority of the worlds of the mosaic are unexplored, this means a person who enters the in-between risks being lost forever in an uncharted, unfamiliar world. However, this is not the most dangerous aspect of the in-between. When a mortal enters the in-between, they witness the nature of existence, viewing every facet of every world simultaneously. For most, this revelation is enough to shatter the mind, rendering them mad or plunging them into a coma. This goes beyond Eldritch Abominations driving man mad and just the universe drives you mad, Earthman.
Seeing everything everywhere all at once. Yes, I had to phrase it like that.
Everywhere at the end of time? What?
Why you gotta do me like that, man?
Because I recently got a comment on my comment that I put on that video years ago, telling me I've watched this 5 times and now I don't remember my name. I'm like, you didn't watch a 6-hour thing 5 times in a row, you lying shit.
But after that, we have the matter of Utsushio and Kakuryō, which again, this is another thing that was not covered in the original quick start we covered.
Yes. Would you like me to continue since it's still more Fugenbo?
Yep.
Okay. I guess I'm just taking all the Fugenbo parts today, everybody. That's, I think, most of the lore book then, Monk. Before I speak of the worlds comprising our little corner of the mosaic, I should first enlighten you to the nature of Utsushio, the unveiled world, or the material world, and Kakuryo, the unseen world, or spirit world. Ah, great, it's the Seelie and Unseelie court. Shit. We're dealing with the Fae again, except in Japan. Excuse me. Fantasy Multiverse Japan. There we go. All that you see, experience, and know exists within Utsushio, the unveiled world. But existing parallel to Utsushio is a layer of existence inhabited by the spirits of the dead and the spectral. This world is called Kakuryo, the unseen world, or the spirit world. To most mortals, the spirit world is invisible and intangible. Spirits may even surround you right now, at this very moment. They might be laughing at you and making silly gestures.
They are.
This is Fugenbo looking into the spirit world and making fun of you while the ghost's making fun of you. To those mortals fortunate enough to be blessed with spirit sight, or unfortunate enough to have died, the spirit world appears to be a mirror of our world. A sort of funhouse mirror draped with a fantastical veil, lending everything a dreamy aesthetic not unlike a great watercolor painting. The edges of objects shift and move with an etherealness, like ink drifting in a pool of water. Besides, the usual objects that exist within the material world, other creations inhabit the spirit world. One can find fantastical art, the homes of kami, and creatures never before seen. Why, Takamagahara, yes, this is a name for one of the many heavens in Shinto. The high plains of heaven, where the Amatsukami who rule over all kami reside, exists within the spirit world. Takamagahara is usually where you find Takemiku Tsuchi beating his drums of thunder, but that's I won't get into that because we'd be here all day for that sort of dive into Shinto.
Yep.
Never fear, of course, for nothing in the spirit world can harm or even interact with something in our world without some specific circumstances. For the majority of us, the spirit world is simply a place that our spirit will pass into before they are unfortunately dragged down into Yomi no Kuni, where they will languish forever or be reborn as monstrous creatures. Remember that in the lore of Shadowscar, the Izanagi-Izanami confrontation from Shinto is much bigger, and in fact, Izanami is the biggest driving evil force here that made all of the evil yokai and darkness and such. So yes, instead of just going to the land of the dead, you're going to the land of the cursed dead and maybe becoming one of them. The ruler of Kakuryu, Okuni Nushi, has tried numerous times to find some way to stop this process. But alas, nothing has yet been discovered. And Okuni Nushi is a real kami from Shinto. I am not going to get into their nature. Go look it up. There's an explanation there, and I don't have the time. Interactions with Utsushio. It is important to note that the spirit world is not only a mirror of Nakatsukuni. Kakuryu is the mirror of Utsushio, the unveiled world which encompasses all of existence. In other words, all worlds have an unveiled world and an unseen world. This allows the kami to traverse between worlds. It would not be unusual to find a kami living in the spirit world of a junkyard in 5th Street, for instance, inhabiting a home it built on top of a wrecked vehicle. Of course, it would be invisible to the inhabitants, but more puckish kami may make themselves known by moving objects or pulling pranks on unsuspecting people.
Again, if they can pull pranks, they will.
I mean, they're gods. What do you expect?
Although, to be honest, I would rather have pulling pranks than demanding sacrifices. I think you know exactly whose pantheon I'm looking at with that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Kyoryu saying, spirits hate me. Must be the haggis maturing.
That makes sense.
Oh. Now, the details that are given on each of the realms, that is something we already covered. In fact, it's more or less the same text. The only difference is that instead of just a little preview on one page, each of the art representatives gets a full page to itself.
Mm-hmm.
And then also the logo for 5th Street is still my favorite of the logos.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the description of the Shadowscar Agency, we already went over that.
Yes.
But The history of ninjutsu. This we did not go over. And since you took the last couple of entries, I'll handle this one if you don't mind.
Go ahead. It doesn't look like it's in Fugenbo's style.
Mm-hmm. The rise of ninjutsu. Many schools of ninjutsu were developed in response to the political landscape of the early empire, born from disenfranchised or oppressed communities who embraced ninjutsu to help them fight guerrilla wars against their enemies. As ninjutsu spread, shinobi emerged from the shadows, so to speak, using their skills to foil lords who encroached on their homes, or selling their services for powerful political factions. The shinobi's wide range of skills meant they were familiar with both armed and unarmed combat, as well as espionage, strategy, stealth, explosives, geography, meteorology, and disguise. It became common for lords to hire shinobi to act as spies, assassins, and even bodyguards. Shinobi were often pitted against one another, and this could lead to bitter rivalries. Clans rose, fell, fractured, and unified in ever-changing landscape of ninjutsu. Then we have the 100 Years of Sorrow. Then came the 100 Years of Sorrow. In 697, the return of Izanami heralded a war that would last a century. At first, there wasn't much change to the way shinobi operated. They continued to hire themselves out to a local daimyo and influential people, but their enemies shifted from humans to monsters. These new targets forced the shinobi to hone their techniques to counteract the supernatural powers of the yokai. Yokai could be far more perceptive, more resilient, and more dangerous than the average human, and many shinobi were killed in the course of carrying out their missions. But still, shinobi were in high demand, being the only soldiers with the skill to spy on the yokai. The real turning point came when Lord Susanoo, the Spirit of the Storm, freed my fellow Daitengu and myself from Izanami's horde. Oh, this isn't his tone.
It is still Fugenbo. He's just being really serious.
Mm-hmm. When the great Susanoo broke my kin and me from our bond to Yomi, we sought to repay him for his aid. In the interest of protecting those who freed us, the other 47 Daitengu and myself agreed to share our knowledge with humanity. We formed the Great Clans of Life, numbering 25. Sufficient to say, there were many clans in addition to the 5 Great Clans of Shadow, but our focus lies there. 5 of the Daitengu most skilled in the ways of ninjutsu formed clans from the lost and bedraggled shinobi of Nakatsukumi. They taught them their ways, created new techniques from the ashes of old clans, and produced soldiers who could infiltrate the enemy and destroy them from within. For a time, shinobi enjoyed a surprising amount of respect. Through their skill and sacrifice, hundreds were saved. While shinobi never became famous per se, they became valued soldiers and respected mercenaries from influential orders. With the end of the 100 Years of Sorrow, the great clans lost their shared enemy and they returned to their personal goals along with their Daitengu teachers. You see, in the wake of this time of unthinkable suffering, the world was shattered. Imperial aristocrats all across the empire had become warlords, refusing to acknowledge authority of the empress. In the midst of this chaos, the great clans pursued their own agendas, which often brought them into conflict, as some chose to side with daimyo in return. I think there's supposed to be a "the" there. In return,
side with daimyo. Daimyo is both a singular and a plural.
Yeah, my bad. In return for favors and money, and others remained neutral as they pursued their goals. I remember speaking with the Daitengu who oversaw these clans during this time and asking why they didn't rein in their students, and the answer was always different. Ajari, teacher of the Arashi, embraced the devil-may-care attitude of the Arashi shinobi and saw no reason to stop them. Rikubo, teacher of the Fusumashi, had already sided with the lord who promised to dedicate his army to putting the world back into balance after he took over the archipelago. The only clan who remained loyal to the empire were the Wanami, who became vicious enforcers of imperial will, sacrificing their morality for the good of the empire. In other words,
greater good.
Shut it! Unfortunately, this led to blood rivalries between the great clans, many of which still persist to this day. Through these conflicts, the reputation of the shinobi fell. They earned a reputation for treachery and callousness and were branded as trustworthy pariahs.
Untrustworthy pariahs.
Untrustworthy pariahs. Trustworthy pariahs sounds like a...
That's an oxymoron.
Shinobi would not return to their former glory until the beginning of the Hasegawa dynasty, when Empress Shoko hired hundreds of shinobi to form her secret police.
The Gestapo? What?
In the modern era, the Shadow Scar Agency works in close partnership with the 6 great clans of Shadow. But there are some others who survived the 100 Years of Sorrow, despite being unaffiliated. These tiny, independent clans still hire themselves out as mercenaries, but their clientele is most often peasants, merchants, and aristocrats who need expendable, deniable soldiers to do their dirty work.
Ah. If you get caught, we will deny we ever knew you.
Mm-hmm.
And you will die.
Yep. And after that is the six clans.
Yeah. I'm doing a quick check right now, actually.
In the original Quick Start, the 6 clans only got 1 paragraph each.
Yes. I'm just checking exactly what information we might be able to step over a little bit. But I don't think we'll be able to step over too much. We should probably just read them out.
Yeah, I'll let you take the Arashi clan first.
Okay. We knew when we set out to forge the great clans that there would have to be one devoted to subterfuge. Ajari took this task on as if he were born for it. The tempestuous Daitengu traveled the land, finding the most devious, underhanded shinobi in Nakatsukuni. But the crown jewel was the first leader of the Arashi, Kotaro Fuma, the demon of the wind. Really? We're gonna go with Sengoku era famous shinobi?
Okay.
Where's our Hanzo? Where's our Goemon? Where's our Sarutobi Sasuke?
Well, if it's not
We'll
there,
probably
just
see
have
them
to-
later. I know.
If they're not there, we'll just have to make it.
I know. Together with Kotaro, Ajari created a clan to be feared by all. A clan many consider to be a dangerous beast on a strong chain. Also, something I wanted to mention just above when Rikubo, teacher of the Futsubashi, had sided with a lord who promised to dedicate his army to putting the world back into balance after he took over the country. I could think of a certain Mon and a certain clan of certain sixth heavenly purpose. Arashi clan methods. It is no great secret that in war there are no rules. No, when your life is on the line, any opportunity is golden. The Arashi understand this. Using their variety of dirty tricks, their insidious curses, and powerful Mikyo of the Storm, the Arashi are known for being fierce battlefield warriors and cunning saboteurs. Their leadership. The Great Arashi clan is led by a pair of twins. Alfarius Omegon, is that you? A dynamic duo, you might call them. Batman and Robin, is that you? Though I think a terrible twosome would be more accurate. Hakaku and Asagi Shio are... One of them is, of course, named Bunny. Are skilled warriors infamous for their joint fighting style, which involves graceful acrobatics and the use of weapons which, frankly, are impractical at best. Like their clan, they are flashy and unpredictable, but to their credit, they respect their clan members better than many. Truly, to be a part of Arashi clan is to be part of a family. And then their headquarters. New members of the Arashi clan train at the Devil's Circle, a fortified ring of training grounds and castles built around the base of Mount Aso. The Devil's Circle is run by a council of Jonin who each maintain their own training house, where students learn a different facet of their academy's teachings before embarking on the dangerous journey to the next Jonin's castle. Oh, you learned everything from me? Okay, go 10 days that way through the forest. Be careful of the demon beasts. That's
One of these castles is one of the Jonin in question named Takashi.
I don't know. But if we went to Takashi's castle, that's going to be the worst training for sure.
Just remember the rule: don't get eliminated. But then we have
Kyoryu points out that the Arashi clan sounds like Scorpion from L5R.
I could.
I mean, surface level, I would say.
Yeah.
Surface level similarities.
Mm-hmm. So, then we have the Futsumashi clan, and I'll take this one. The effect of the 100 Years of Sorrow was incalculable. Mountain ranges were obliterated, highlands sunk, and forests burned. In response to this upheaval, many wished for the days when humans and yokai coexisted, and Yomi was a peaceful land of eternal rest. Rikubo's goal in creating the Futsumashi was to create a group who would help pull the world back into balance. Rather than gathering shinobi motivated by wrath, Rikubo found those with morals and restraint who sought peace.
Restraint, right.
Yep. The Futsumashi are spiritualists and warriors who seek to live at peace with the world. They are taught deadly weapon techniques, but sworn to never draw their weapons unless it cannot be avoided. Instead, they use their ocular Mikyo to see the unseen and influence those around them toward peace. The leader of the Futsumashi, Oki Sawano, any relation to Hiroyuki?
I mean, Hiroyuki Sawano definitely inspires peace.
Is a staunch pacifist who has seen all the evils of this world. Sadly, they suffered terribly as a child, being born blind and kidnapped by bandits at the age of 13. Oki only managed to escape after murdering their captor in the night and slipping away to seek shelter with the shinobi of the Nara Valley. The blind shinobi's skill with a sword is unparalleled, but they are far more likely to use their silver tongue and keen Mikyo to study or negotiate with their enemies. Zatoichi, is that you?
I don't know. Are we in a Kurosawa film now? The answer is yes.
New members of the Futsumashi clan train in the Painted World, a gorgeous castle of dark lacquered wood amid a sea of trees on the top of Mount Tsukuba. The halls of the Painted World are adorned with all manner of murals depicting the history of Natsukuni, and every room is filled with natural wonders which house friendly spirits.
It's a ghost castle called the Painted World. Was someone playing Dark World designing that headquarters, or Dark Souls while designing this headquarters?
I don't know. But next we have the Hibana clan, and I'll let you take that.
You know, the Hibana clan is only one particle or two particles away from being the Higanbana clan, and the Higanbana clan would be a clan of... Well, for those of you who don't know, Higanbana is the Japanese word for the red spider lily, which is a flower famously associated with death in East Asia. Anyway, the Hibana clan. There are those among us Daitengu who see no reason to fix what is not broken, and despite her youth, Sankibo is among them. When the time came to forge the great clans, she set out to find the best and most classically trained shinobi in Nakatsukuni. She turned down many who couldn't meet her high expectations, which I can imagine made her few friends. But her pickiness paid off. The Hibana are a force to be reckoned with, devoted to the old ways but able to accept and integrate new technology. The Hibana are flexible in their methods, so it can be difficult to summarize them. They strive to be prepared for any occasion, carrying different tools and practicing a wide variety of Mikyo brought from many long-dead clans. They are most known, however, for their mastery of fire and all that it brings. Smoke, ash, and sparks are all weapons of the Hibana, which makes sense. Hibana literally means fire flower, like if you look at the kanji. The Hibana were drawn from the remains of many different clans, and so when the time came to pick a leader, a democratic vote became the method of choice. The current leader, Asahi Fujita, was elected just a few years ago and has already begun to better his clan. Asahi is as much a traditionalist as Sankibo, but his fascination with Uchijin technology makes him more than willing to add new tricks to his highly analytical strategies. Oftentimes, his innovations mix the old and new to create something entirely unheard of. Uchijin. Like if it was Uchijin, that'd be space person, and that would make a little more sense because of refuge, but I'm not sure about Uchijin. New members of the Hibana clan train at White Blossom Castle, a labyrinthine castle hidden deep in the dangerous forests at the foot of Mount Misen. White Blossom Castle is sprawling and meticulously maintained. I've taken a tour of the grounds and seen its many gardens of toxic flowers, well-stocked laboratories, and shrines for meditation and study.
Flowers, poisons, labyrinthine castles. Didn't I make it an Uchiha joke last time?
I don't know if you did, but I wouldn't make an Uchiha joke here because of the whole fire and explosives thing. I would rather make a Deidara joke.
Fair.
Because art is an explosion!
But next we have the Kuromaku clan. Despite welcoming people from other worlds, known as Uchijin. Oh, so...
Okay. Just people from other place.
Mhm.
Literally.
Yep.
Uchi means over there.
Yeah. Into the agency, many of the great clans were still reluctant to share their well-guarded secrets. So Director Yamana, his Uchijin advisor, Adnir al-Hashim, and the wise Daitengu Nagibu came together to form the Kuromaku clan, to prepare the Uchijin for war. Over time, the other great clans came to accept the Uchijin, and the Kuromaku opened their doors to people from Nakatsukuni, but the clan is still primarily Uchijin to this day. The Kuromaku are, of course, greatly influenced by their Soke, and so they are trained somewhat differently than other shinobi. Kuromaku shinobi are trained in infiltration, information gathering, and assassination. Similar to the secret agents of Refuge, they are taught to blend in anywhere and manipulate their targets with Mikyo charms. Adnir al-Hashim, as the Victorians say, a class act. He's seen countless atrocities and sacrificed much to protect his people. He took to the task of training the Uchijin without a single complaint, and he has created a regimented course which is obviously reminiscent of his own training in the Lunar Government's Dark Side Agency. He's also among the friendliest gentlemen I've ever had the pleasure of meeting, though I suspect he has learned to tailor his personality to best ingratiate himself to those he encounters. New members of the Kuromaku clan train at a hyper-modern training center built into the face of Mount Takao called the Horizon Facility. This facility itself is extremely modern, just like its director. A subterranean compound outfitted with specially designed rooms devoted to various methods of training from lecture halls to gymnasiums.
A clan accepting modern technology made up of all sorts of peoples, specifically focused on information gathering, infiltration, and assassination, with a leader that is more than two-faced. He's the man of 1,000 faces. The name Kuromaku suits them, because for those who don't know, Kuromaku is a word literally translating to black curtain or dark curtain, but actually meaning the power behind the power, the mastermind, the secret, the secret force. I think one of the best ones I saw was wire puller or string puller or puppet master.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the Kuromaku clan is well named. Cody is showing his weebdom here. For sure.
Yep. Then we have the Tante clan, and I will let you take that.
Yep. In a way, we owe the concept of the great clans to the Tante's founder, Hokibo, the Daitengu of Mount Daisen. After being freed from Izanami, Hokibo took to the road, disguising himself as a human shinobi named Sasuke Sarutobi. There we go. There's two. Count them. Two Sengoku famous shinobi. We're still missing. Do
I hear three?
I want at least Hattori Hanzo. We need Hattori Hanzo. We have Kotaro Fuma. We have Sasuke Sarutobi. We need Hattori Hanzo. If we could also get a Goemon Ishikawa in there, I would love it. That would be great.
Mm-hmm.
But I won't hold my breath on a Goemon. While we fought, he traveled the land, helping the poor and needy and saving priceless artifacts. As he traveled, he gathered a gang of like-minded shinobi and normal village folk who sought to become vigilantes. This group would become the great Tante clan we know today. Tante's focus is not fighting yokai, and this informs their methods. But Tante's true goal is to free the yokai from Yomi and recover those transformed during the war. Their training focuses on infiltrating dangerous locations unseen and collecting information. Where they are trained in combat, it is usually only to protect themselves from danger. The leader of the Tante is Hokibo's adopted daughter, a clever young woman named Tobe Sarutobi. Tobe is often underestimated as she is still bursting with the energy of youth and tends to lack social awareness. Some might call her scatterbrained. It's the Genki Hime archetype. Hooray! But once she sets her mind on study, it's okay. I'm going to say it right now. For those who don't know what the Genki archetype is or the Hime archetype is, the Genki Hime archetype is Yuffie Kisaragi. Go play Final Fantasy VII.
Mhm.
But once she sets her mind on studying a subject, nothing can stop her, and her grasp of Nakatsukuni's history is second to none. Why, once, over the course of an hour, she narrated the entire Battle of Osaka Harbor to me as though she had been there herself.
Oh, it's worse than that. It's Philip.
I love this. This is fantastic. No, it's Philip in information storage. It's Yuffie Kisaragi in attitude.
Mhm. Which is a terrifying combination, if you ask me.
I love it. I love it. This is fantastic. New members of the Tante clan train at the hidden village of Yure no Machi. The village of ghosts? Or no, the path of ghosts. No, Machi is city. So yes, the city of ghosts. I was thinking Michi, which is path. This spectacular bit of architecture is made up of a collection of buildings suspended on boardwalks and connected to cliffside... Monk, it's a village built into a cliff face. Or into a gorge, almost, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
Connected to cliffside residences. All of this hangs above a steaming lake in the caldera of Mount Daisen, concealed from outside observers by a layer of cloud-like mist. They built their castle city thing into the side of a dormant volcano caldera that is not so dormant that the lake in the caldera is not steaming at all times, and the steam obscures them. Okay, I accept this fully. Actually, that's ninjas for you. That is ninjas.
Yep. And the last of the clans is the Wanami clan. The Wanami clan was created with one goal in mind: the protection of the people by the devastation of all yokai. Shinzobo lost many friends during the 100 Years of Sorrow and was forced to perform unspeakable acts by Izanami. To form the Wanami, the solemn old Daitengu looked for those shinobi who had suffered like he had, those who held the same hatred for the yokai. Together, they would take their revenge and spare the innocent the pain they had suffered. While their talents are not as varied as their allies, the Wanami excel at hunting yokai. Members of the Wanami have learned hunting techniques from as far away as Ainu Mosir and the Kingdom of Ryukyu. Really? As they put them to staggering effect. Often, the Wanami even go out of their way to train a beast of the land to be their hunting companions. The first shinobi to join Shinzobo was Ameko Sato. As a young girl, Ameko's family had been massacred by yokai, and she was forced to flee into the wilderness. She trained diligently with the shinobi of Koga. We're going to get a Koga eventually.
We've got the Koga Ninja Clan.
Mm-hmm. But leapt at the chance to join Shinzobo to take her revenge. Among the eldest of the leader, Ameko is a hero to many in the agency. Over the course of the last 40 years of the 100 Years of Sorrow, she killed more than 2,000 yokai with her twin swords and poisoned arrows, including several key generals. New members of the Wanami clan train in the village of Hoshimura. At first, you could be forgiven for assuming Hoshimura is little more than a cozy pastoral village in the forest at the base of Mount Iwaki. However, surrounding the village is a veritable web of training grounds hidden among the trunks of the trees and suspended high in the canopy.
I mean, that's literally just the village hidden in the leaves. But I'd also like to note that the Wanami clan, if you are hearing a certain song in your head, it might go a little like this, people. Because they're just the Monster Hunters. This is just Monster Hunter. This is just Capcom. If anybody from R. Talsorian is watching right now, this is me making comparisons to things I love with something else that I am learning to love, so don't take it as me discounting you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually sure that most of you would like some of these comparisons anyway, because I'm sure some of you love the things that we love as well.
Yeah. And as far as why they'd have it high in the trees, as we've learned from Dark Souls, the most devastating attack is the plunging attack.
You know why else they have it in the trees, Monk?
Because of the Lorax?
No, they're not Vietnamese, Monk. Come on now. No, because there are no dwarves in this land. Oh wow.
But
so do you want to take the Hollow Eye Syndicate and just leave me the yokai, or what?
Yeah, since
the yokai's 2 pages.
The Hollow Eye Syndicate was definitely not something that we covered last time.
Yeah, it wasn't there.
Mm-hmm. So, first off, I will give props for the coat of arms that they have.
I think that's
good.
I think that's either. You know what? I'm gonna give me a second to translate that that coat of arms. It
is a bit amusing that the design has a fleur-de-lis and a trident.
Yeah. Okay, I get that right. Is it so? That's Latin. That's actual Latin. I need to determine what Acheronta is. So I think this translation's probably not very good. I'll check DeepL as well. DeepL doesn't even have Latin.
Mm-hmm.
Lame. If I had to make a guess at this particular translation, very roughly, the translation I'm seeing on Google Translate is, if I cannot bend the others, I will move the Acheron, or Acheron, which, for those who don't know what the Acheron is, it's a river in Greece, and is also technically in Greek mythology, because it's one of the rivers in the underworld, the river of misery.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, this is probably not a very good translation. I understand. Latin is not one of the easiest languages to translate. But yeah, that's an interesting thing. Anyway, go ahead, Monk, with the Hollow Eye Syndicate.
Yep. Leaving the Shadowscar Agency is not something one simply does. The training an agent receives has been a well-kept secret for centuries, and the knowledge an agent gains from traversing the mosaic is tremendous. No, if an agent wishes to end their term of service, they must submit to have all of their memories of their time in the agency scrubbed away for good. This may seem harsh, but it truly is necessary. That being said, not everyone who leaves the agency leaves on the agency's terms. Agents who flee the Shadowscar Agency are branded New Canine, missing ninja. I find that most often these agents are war criminals, murderers, and loose cannons who broke the rules of the agency for their own personal gain or because of their own arrogance. Rather than face judgment, they choose to go on the run. Generally, though, without the support of the Shadowscar Agency, New Canine are quickly located and dealt with. But this is where the Syndicate comes into play. More and more New Canaan manage to elude the agency's strike teams every year, and this has led to the discovery of the Hollow Eye Syndicate, a criminal organization made up of New Canaan. As far as we can tell, the Hollow Eye Syndicate has agents all over the Mosaic. Without access to Tori, they use an outdated method of traversing the Mosaic by tearing rifts in reality. The Syndicate seems to maintain headquarters in all 4 charted worlds, and there has been speculation they have a presence on uncharted worlds as well. But we've yet to find them. Members of the Syndicate are Shadowscar agents' worst nightmare. They make their way using all the skills they learned in the agency to better themselves with no concern for the secrecy of the Veil War. They steal valuables, extract revenge on their enemies, and extort favors out of important figures across the Mosaic. They aren't concerned if a civilian sees them using Mikyo, and they're even bold enough to sell items from one world to the natives of another who may see that item as a rare magical oddity. It's said that they even hire their services out to those who can pay, making problems disappear no matter what they have to do.
Ninja Yakuza. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good way to also introduce other ninjas you'll have to fight in the game.
Yeah.
Also, this symbol for the yokai, it looks somewhat familiar, Monk. Why does this look like something we've seen in too many Castlevania games? Kind of looks like the door to Chaos or the Abyss.
Yep.
Which makes sense, considering it's probably supposed to be like representative of the portal to Yomi or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but with that, we get to the yokai. Pardon me. It would be a great disservice to say that all yokai are alike. It would even be inaccurate to relate them to humans. You see, dear reader, yokai is a large and spacious term which encompasses many creatures. At its core, it refers to something strange and unexpected, a phenomenon, creature, illness, or anything else that cannot be explained without the use of magic. There are yokai like Oni and Kappa, which are humanoid creatures who are born, live, and die like a human. And then there are yokai like Takuchi Hito and Yuki Hito, who are, well, most of you will probably know this as Futakuchi Onna and Yuki Onna, because they're the more common versions of both, but yes, they're just saying two-mouth people and snow people. Mm-hmm. Who are born from humans who fall prey to their own vices or a terrible death. Even further from the understandable, we have yokai like Ao Ondon, who are simply a manifestation or some primal concept, in this case, fear. In the time before Izanami's return, there were different classifications for yokai. There were Yurei, which were the ghosts of humans transformed by death or emotion. Bakemono, malicious shape-shifting monsters. Mononoke, vengeful spirits of suffering and disease. And countless more. Yes, those are actual classifications of yokai. In fact, we've talked about this on a Parliament of Geeks regarding Mononoke 2007.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Cody. Thank you very much. I love it when other people share the things we like. This deep, nearly asinine levels, like pointless levels of understanding folklore to some people, whereas to me it's more anal retentive levels. I absorb all the information I have to.
Mm-hmm.
Interactions with these yokai could be as varied as the yokai themselves. As a side note, in the actual intro sheet on the glossary of key terms, Ao Ondon is defined as a spectral yokai created by fear who consume fear. So there's a little bit more there. I would suggest looking up Ao Ondon on your own. It's a very fascinating thing. I remember a time, centuries ago, when humans, kami, and yokai lived in relative harmony. Of course, there were yokai who preyed on humans, but the majority of these creatures could be reasoned with, or tricked if necessary, like bowing to a kappa to make it spill the water out of the dish on its head and dehydrate. Far outnumbering the dangerous yokai were tricksters and imps who did little more than pull harmless pranks on people or spook them on the road at night. In fact, while it may be difficult to imagine now, there were even yokai beneficial for cities and villages. Fugenbo is now talking about himself, Daitengu protect areas. Mm-hmm. Creatures and phenomenon which brought good harvest, scared away bad dreams, and protected against illness. Why, I even attended the wedding of a human woman and a kitsune once. It was a delightful affair, and their child, a Hanyo, or half yokai, was equally wonderful.
Is that
We don't
Abe no
have-
Seimei?
I mean, it might be, but I think it's not just a reference to Abe no Seimei monk.
Mhm.
There are a lot of people who may have heard the term Hanyo from a specific Rumiko Takahashi work that was extremely popular in the early thousands.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm talking about Inuyasha. Fuck off. But these times are long gone. When Izanami captured the minds of the yokai, she stripped them of their identities and their free will. She bound us together into a terrible hive mind, with her as its queen. We moved in harmony with one another, acting as tools of our queen, like the limbs of a massive centipede. There was no way for us to live at peace with humans and Kami, and slowly those connections were erased. All sympathy for my kind was stomped out to avoid destruction. The classifications of yokai became irrelevant to many people, as all yokai were now monsters of destruction. Even the most peaceful of us have been twisted into bloodthirsty killers, with no concept of regret or compassion. I imagine Fugenbo would be a bit heated about all this.
Yes.
After the banishment of Izanami, Yomi's grasp on the yokai was weakened. Without a kami to use as a conduit, the ruler of the afterlife was no longer able to dominate the minds of all yokai. In the aftermath of the war, the yokai were able to recover somewhat. They regained fragments of their free will, and their own personalities began to resurface. Unfortunately, Yomi's corruption persists, and the yokai still carry a seed of violence in their minds, its twisted roots suppressing their best features and feeding their worst traits and most destructive instincts. The seed of evil keeps the yokai bound to Izanami and Yomi, and they will follow any order given by either deity, whether they agree with it or not. There's a section here called the Tenma clan.
Mm-hmm.
After the last battle of Kyoto, the yokai remaining in Nakatsukuni were cast into the void between worlds, along with their mistress. But unbeknownst to us, the yokai would find a way to slip back into our home. We only discovered them a decade ago or so, hiding in plain sight under the magic masks. The agency assumes that these yokai were sent to build a foothold in Nakatsukuni from which they can launch a future invasion. They work against peace, pushing lords to feud, destroying trade routes, and undermining cities. They appear to call themselves the Tenma clan. I can only imagine that the yokai who landed in Steel Court were quite shocked by what they found. The vastly advanced technology of Steel Court seems to have made integration hard enough, but the highly regimented society of the Grand Victorian Empire must have proved difficult to adapt to. They seem to have caught on to the nature of Steel Court, though, and have begun to build a web of influence. This organization has grown in status, using manipulation, blackmail, and murder to get their hooks into the high society of the Empire. In honor of their disguises, the yokai of Steel Court have taken to referring to themselves as the Masquerade Society. Oh god, they're the Ventru.
Clan Ventru. Owning the world so you don't have to.
Whether you want us to own it or not. I suppose, in proper narrative fashion, the yokai of Fifth Street landed in the Appalachian Mountains. God damn it! Wendigoon, we need you! Can you explain the terrifying story of the Shadowscar Appalachian yokai?
You know what's funny about this? A few days ago, like 2 days ago, a crowdfund came up for an expansion to the Old Gods of Appalachia RPG. That got funded in about 10 minutes.
Yeah. I just... I love it.
It's like poetry. It rhymes.
Indeed. They landed in the Appalachian Mountains, where they watched the people from the wilderness, spawning countless stories of cryptids. While investigating Fifth Street, Shadowscar agents heard sport hunters and hikers telling of strange encounters in the mountains. Rumors floated around small towns about strangers who just didn't quite act human. The yokai are skinwalkers. That makes perfect sense. But the yokai eventually spread out, killing and replacing humans who wandered into the wrong part of the woods. Yeah, they're just fucking skinwalkers. See? These yokai learned from the National Crime Syndicate and formed their own criminal syndicate, the Blood Family. The majority of yokai seem to have landed in refuge. However, they generally remain on Earth. The few yokai who travel to Eos Station and the Selene colony are agents sent to achieve specific missions to bring down the last remaining humans. They call themselves the Darkest Dawn, and we believe they have hideouts riddled throughout every man-made structure in lunar orbit. The Darkest Dawn.
Yeah. Yeah. That completely tracks. Oh. But moving right along. Sorry about that. I had to do one little bit of an edit.
Yep. Now, as we stated, looking at the system book, it's basically everything we already reviewed mechanically when we reviewed Eyes in the Darkness.
Mm-hmm.
It is, in fact, the same layout with the same words. So they had this system book already designed, and they just integrated it into Eyes in the Darkness for a single play, a single playbook for a quick start.
Yeah. And so once again, I appreciate the expanded art that's in this. I definitely appreciate.
I also love all the fact that much of the art is kept in family, because we see a lot of by Dolan Pondsmith all over this.
Mm-hmm. And the advantage of having one person handling a large amount of the art is keeping a consistent tone.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, a lot of the stuff in the mechanics part is page for page what we had seen before. There's the parts that are dividing the major chapters within it have these new 2-page spreads as mentioned before, which are very nice. I especially like the Rogues Gallery look, having it look like basically an Arkham style jail.
I like that too. I'm also glad that there are some fun little explanations behind some of the yokai. They're in alphabetical order.
There's also more yokai in here than there was in Eyes in the Darkness.
And I think that's because there's the included adventure is larger than Eyes in the Darkness was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because the included adventure has 5 chapters. Mask of the Green Demon. It looks like the rogues get a Namahage. Wow, nice.
Yeah.
That's Are we sure that's not a Bake Neko instead of a Nekomata? Most Nekomata are not vicious. They in fact, a cat that becomes a Nekomata usually becomes one because of a close connection to their family.
Well, keep in mind the lore of this setting.
Oh, I know. I'm just. Are we sure that's not a Bake Neko from the way it looks?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hey, Monk! It's Kei's favorite monster, the Tsuchigumo. I know, I'm mean.
Yeah. Now,
Kei ever comes back and watches this, I love you, Kei.
Now, the third section is the pre-gens, and each of them gets their own PDF.
Yeah, because it's a 4-page. It's the character sheet, which we saw in the Eyes in the Darkness booklet, but didn't really go into. But they also get a character profile and a play this character if, which is really important. I like that.
play the character if, and also each one of them gets new art beyond the profile image that we saw in the character sheet proper.
Is Aisha supposed to be a Belmont? I
A
mean,
Middle Eastern. Well, in the Castlevania animation, we did have hints that there were vampire hunters, way beyond the Transylvania region.
okay. Something I have to point out. She's from Constantinople, Monk,
Mm-hmm.
which is known today as Istanbul.
And you're hearing the "They Might Be Giant" song in your head.
Yes.
You're welcome.
But the reason I bring this up is because Transylvania is one of 3 regions that is now integrated into Romania itself. Istanbul and Romania, especially from Istanbul to Bucharest, is not a very far distance. Now, if we look up Transylvania itself, the Transylvania region is in northwest Romania, so it's like the furthest. It's the furthest part of Romania from Istanbul, but it's still not that far. So she could be a Belmont branch clan. I'm just saying.
Yeah. And of course, it doesn't exactly help that you have the Victorian Empire within Steel Court.
The Victorian Empire that has embraced steam technology.
Mm-hmm. But I do want to note that with the Play Aisha If, it says, play Aisha if you like to support your teammates and ensure the group can complete their goals. You want to infiltrate enemy headquarters with their own magical masks. You want to be able to crack codes and read people like a book. So a Belmont who is a spy.
Well, she's Tante clan. That's why.
Yep. And one of the other things that was not in the quick start that is here is a whole page dedicated to improving your agent.
Mm-hmm.
And the ways that you can improve it is deepen your key reserve, because it basically at the end of each gameplay session you can choose one of the following improvement options. Deepen your key reserve. Raise your key reserve by 1 to a maximum of 10. Strengthen your resolve. Raise your vitality by 2 points to a maximum of 20. Improve your mind and body. Mark one of your statistic. Once you have marked a statistic 4 times, erase the marks and raise that statistic by 1 to a maximum of 3. Train in a skill. Mark one of your skills. Once you have marked the skill 2 times, erase the marks and raise that skill by 1 to a maximum of 3. Learn a new technique. Mark one technique below. When you have marked the technique 2 times, you may learn it, allowing you to utilize it. The techniques available are armor seals. By taking 2 actions, you can etch a seal into a single suit of armor or heavy armor to condense it into a pair of bracelets. You can redeploy or condense the armor with an action.
It's Iron Man armor.
If somebody at our table takes this, they're going to be doing a henshin pose.
I was already thinking of what John would do with it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Monkey's Charge. Return to Monkey. You gain a +1 bonus.
A lot.
And you gain +1 bonus to athletics checks. Made move through an unwilling character space. I don't like the way that was worded.
That one is missing a word.
Mm-hmm.
Bonus to athletics checks made to move through an unwilling character space.
Yeah. Additionally, when you move through an unwilling character space, they suffer the prone condition.
Basically, you tumble through and knock them down.
Mm-hmm. And Quick Disguise. By taking an action, you can change from one outfit to another, or change enough aspects of your current outfit to make it appear totally different. It's under 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly on this sheet, learn a new Mikyo. Mark one Mikyo below. When you have marked a Mikyo 2 times, you learn it, allowing you to utilize. I think they forgot the it, but... So, Devil's Quills, which costs 1 key point. Make a focus check to launch quills at all characters in a 15-foot radius area adjacent to you. Any of these characters who fail an opposed athletics check take 1 point of damage and are poisoned with Snake Scale Solution. See Armory.
Okay. Hold on. Snake Scale Solution. After being afflicted by this poison, a character takes 2 points of damage at the beginning of each of their turns unless they make a difficult 4 endurance check or someone makes a difficult 4 medicine check with a first aid kit.
Mm-hmm. Then Spectral Decoy, which costs 1 key point. Summon a servant spirit in the spirit world within 100 feet which projects noises into the material world, which can include voices. This spirit disappears after 10 minutes.
It's an audio decoy, literally.
Yep. Then Spectral Spy, which costs 1 key point. Summon a servant spirit in the spirit world, which perches on a piece of cover or a character within 100 feet. By taking an action, you can look through the spirit's eyes instead of your own. The spirit disappears after 10 minutes. Oh, remote viewing. Nice.
Yep. I like that that Aisha seems to be this really nice, like, utility character.
Mm-hmm.
There's clearly some stuff here that can help with combat, but it's more indirect. And so she is. It seems like she's more, I guess, geared towards setting up for others to do the primary damage dealing, while she does cool things like spy on stuff and look around the corners for people, figuratively and literally speaking. But with that, we move on to Atsuko Nishijima, who is originally from Nakatsukuni, with a name like that. The play if she's also from the Arashi clan, so she's from the dirty clan that does all the dirty tricks. And if that picture is anything to indicate by a monk, she wields a Nodachi. I like it. But it says... Oh, go ahead.
No, you're good.
Okay. Play Atsuko if you like to be very mobile and able to dash around the battlefield. You like to wield big weapons and deal tons of damage. So Atsuko is our mobile burst damage dealer. You like playing a wild card and a loose cannon. Hey monk! Look who I'm playing! But for her improvements, she has the 4 that everybody gets: deepening key reserves, strengthening resolve, improving mind, body, and spirit, retraining, and a skill. But for learn a new technique and learn a new Mikyo, the new techniques she can learn are quick-witted, which you gain a +2 bonus to awareness checks made for initiative. Radiate menace. When you take the threatened action, you can target multiple characters. Each character must make a separate resistance check to defend against your manipulation check. You cannot take a penalty on this check, which, for the sake of the game, I'm actually going to go back to Threaten on the system book to remind people what taking a penalty would do. Where is it? It's a social action, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Using a manipulation, strength, or melee check, you attempt to make a target fear you. If you beat the target's defense, they take a -1 penalty to any checks required to oppose you. Alternatively, you can take a -2 penalty on your check to instead force the targeted character to flee from you and stay away from it. So you can't take that -2 penalty for the alternative effect, is what it's saying. Then Underhanded tricks is the last technique she learns. When you make a melee weapon attack or an unarmed strike and roll 2 or more 6s, you can cause the target to suffer either the prone or blinded condition until the end of their next turn. Dirty fighting, Monk. And it's, hey, if you roll 2 or more high numbers, here's some dirty fighting. I love it. As for the new Mikyo that Atsuko can learn, the first one is Magnetize. Cause an object you touch to become magnetic for 1 hour. Alternatively, you can cause the object to become so magnetic that separating it from metal surfaces requires a difficult 4 strength check. Then there's Wind Barrage. Surround your body with wind for 10 minutes, increasing the range of any melee attacks you make to 30 feet by creating a blast of air. When using these blasts, you can roll a focus check instead of a melee check. I know I was making Inuyasha jokes earlier, but this is just the Tetsaiga's wind scar, the Kaze no Kizu, which is actually literally what that means. Kaze no Kizu, scar of wind scar. Yeah. Then the final Mikyo she can learn, Seed of Weakness. Make a focus check to plant a seed in the mind of a character you touch who fails an opposed resistance check, which imposes a -1 penalty to their defense against one type of social action for 1 hour. Oh, that's dirty. Especially since she's hot. Like, she's going to touch somebody, they're not going to resist, and then they're going to be even more in the putty in the palm of her hands.
Well, we found Riona's character.
Don't remind me. I will make her melt one day. I will. It's an eternal war, Monk. An eternal war, and I aim to win it. But that leaves you Carmen del Rosario.
All right. Carmen del Rosario. Let me load that up.
See, this is why I just have them all open, though. Although, if I'm being honest, Aisha was probably Kay's character. Even though Aisha has the ability to learn the whole armor bracelets thing, all the spying stuff is something I see Kay doing. Especially considering our current playthrough of Strange Machine Games Robotech RPG.
Oh, yeah. But, hold on a second, I gotta take care of one small thing.
We got a bot. You gotta go ban him or a bot.
Different kind of bot.
Okay.
It was elsewhere. I already took care of it.
Okay.
But Carmen del Rosario, who that's definitely a face of somebody who has
They love their work.
They love their work, or has spent way too much time around Go Nagai characters.
No, Monk. No. With that weapon setup, you know what I'm about to say.
What? Doesn't help that she's wearing mostly white. But
and gold.
Play Carmen if you like to wield dual blades with precision and skill. You like to play charismatic characters and use money to solve your problems. You want to be able to pull off insane stunts in vehicles of all shapes and sizes. Oh,
it's fucking Kaiba!
Screw the rules! I have money!
And a dragon-shaped jet, apparently. I am never letting that part of Battle City go.
Nor should you.
Jeez.
Because let's be honest, if we had that kind of money, we would build a dragon-shaped jet.
No, Monk, no! I would build a dragon-shaped air dreadnought. Come on now.
Fair. I will only accept that if, when it shows up, you end up playing either Wagner or the Imperial March.
Um,
Or Gustav Holst, also allowable.
um, can I instead play the William Tell Overture and scare the shit out of everybody?
Only if cannons are fired. You cannot do the William Tell Overture without cannons. These are the rules.
William Tell Overture or the Overture of 1812. I'll play both, and the cannons will fire off them both. It'll be one out of each set of speakers. I'll scare the shit out of two halves of a city with different music.
Yeah. And for those thinking that I'm being a bit anal about the cannons thing, if you go to a performance of of either of those overtures, they have cannons on stage.
And if you look at the sheet music, there are parts for cannons.
Yeah.
They're literally included as part of the orchestra.
It's like that Florentiner Marsh sheet music that had that big fucking forte note on tubas that said, "Not for those who bathe in lukewarm water." It was 14 fortes. Who the fuck does that?
Forte C C C C C C C C C C C C C C
Pretty much.
There was one that people made a joke about that was like 24 pianos though. It's like, how do you hear this?
Yeah, I remember seeing something like that, and the way that these students got around it was just not play at all.
Yep.
And then the instructor said that sounded perfect.
Yep. So we've determined that Carmen's role is precision damage dealing, but also in social situations, slapping people in the face with wads of cash. And then, of course, she is your getaway gal.
Why am I thinking of Gilgamesh?
Why did you have to say that and then it not remind me of the biggest asshole in Fate, but remind me of Vic's unfortunately directed commercial? Gilgamesh.
See, that one's on you. I was actually aiming for Caster Gilgamesh.
I know who you were aiming for, but your aim sucks.
Still better aim than Stormtroopers, but I was going for Caster Gilgamesh because, well, throwing money at the problem is something he did. And he is...
Oh, I know.
He's still an asshole, but it's a grading on a curve thing.
Well, it's a curve related to other Gilgameshes.
Yeah. But the main difference, obviously, is when it comes to learning a technique. The three techniques that Carmen can learn are 10 Heavenly Escapes. When you are bound by any form of binding, or are suffering the grappled or pinned conditions, you can use 2 actions to perform one of the Heavenly Escapes, and escape from this binding without making a skill check. Then Counter Argument. When you successfully defend against a social action, you can immediately attempt to affect the character who tried to influence you with a social action without taking an action. And Follow-Up Strike. When you defend against a melee attack and roll 2 or more 6s, while using a melee weapon, you can move the target up to 15 feet away or disarm them and knock the item up to 15 feet away. So that's nice for a little bit of crowd control. And for the 3 Mikyo that she can learn, God's Right Eye, which costs 1 key point. Open your eyes to the flow of magic, allowing you to see through illusions and see the influence of magic or possession on a character within 50 feet. You can see the possessing creatures as a spectral silhouette. Then we have Spirit Shackles, costs 1 key point. Make a focus check to shackle a character within 50 feet who fails an opposed resistance check. Until they make a resistance check against your focus check, they suffer the grapple condition and cannot shift into the spirit world. Remember, folks, don't cross the streams. And Touch of Serenity, which costs 1 key point. Make a focus check to completely calm a non-hostile character you touch who fails an opposed resistance or athletics check for 1 hour. This allows you to ignore the penalties associated with alert levels. I'd say that's a good way to give yourself a parachute if you may have gotten spotted. But then we have Hugo Raw.
before we move on to Hugo Monk,
Mhm.
on the techniques that Carmen can learn, the 10 heavenly escapes, and you get it seems like they are a consumable technique. You only have 10 of them. Something I'd really like to see, and I'm sure it's going to be in the main book when the main book does come out. I'd like to see if there's a way to replenish heavenly escapes, or if there's like a rule of, oh, you used all your heavenly escapes in this adventure, but when you get back to the Shadow Scar Agency and you do your rest and recuperation, your heavenly escapes are restored or whatever. I'd also like to see a long list of the techniques, because there's no list in the documentation we have. I basically I just want more. I know that you can't give more because this is a starter set, but please give me more. I want it. But the big one I am most concerned about is there a way to replenish these heavenly escapes? Like, is there a way to replenish limited techniques of this type?
Yeah, I would assume so. I think my big concern would be whether or not you have the, as you've like to use the term, too good to use issue when it comes to them.
Yeah. The biggest issue here is if they are replenishable, the question is how replenishable. Are they easily or more difficultly replenished? With how powerful that specific technique is, which allows you to escape a condition by spending more actions and skipping the check entirely, I can imagine that this would be one that has like a medium rate of recovery rather than like an easy rate of recovery. Because if you could just recover it willy-nilly, there's no reason not to use it other than you'd run out of actions for your turn. But getting out of the grapple might be more important.
Yeah, unless 10 heavenly escapes is not meant to be a number.
Yeah,
because
that could just be the name.
Let's be honest, that kind of name sounds like something we'd see in a wuxia novel. I
mean, there's that or the 9 crane dance or the 7 dipper steps. Yes, I know. If this is a limited resource, I want to know. And if it's not a limited resource, I want to know. And if it is a limited resource, I want to know if there's a recovery method. That's important here because, and I think that should actually be in this starter set. Because that technique is something someone is going to look at and weigh against the other techniques and all the other forms of advancement. And they're going to need to weigh that with an informed decision. If somebody perceives this as a limited thing with no way to restore it, they are going to skip it. I can almost guarantee they are going to skip it for something like Follow-Up Strike, or they're going to skip it to learn a Mikyo like God's Right Eye, or maybe they don't want any new Mikyo, and that technique was the only one that looked really interesting to them, so they're instead going to train their skills, or deepen their reserves, or improve their body and mind. Without that extra bit of information, whether this is limited or not, and if it's limited, whether there's a recovery method, that I could see that technique getting skipped by a lot of players. But with that, we move on to Hugo. Play Hugo if, hey, I get to read him and he looks like me, Monk, except his hair is blonder like when I was younger.
I already made the Hohenheim joke last time.
I mean, I made plenty of jokes as well. Mm-hmm. We made plenty of jokes about Hugo. But play Hugo if you want to be a skilled marksman able to take difficult shots. You want to be able to take enemies down with your bare hands, and you like to set traps for your enemies. Gunfu and traps. Also, Hugo is from the Wanami clan, so that's pretty awesome. As for his unique things for strengthening, for improving, I know we're kind of not going over things like the innate techniques in Mikyo and stuff that they have. Mm-hmm. That would take a lot longer. But the techniques he can, actually no, Monk, I think we should go back and at least look at their techniques and Mikyo that they start with. and maybe their homeland ability, because the homeland abilities are different depending on homeland.
Yeah, so in that case, let me load up
I'll
Aisha
get it. Yeah, I have them all open, but yeah, you'll start with Aisha's techniques and Mikyo.
So her techniques are common attachment. If you have a yokai's
Attunement.
Attunement. If you have a yokai's common, you can put it on to take on the human disguise of the yokai who owned the common. This changes your physical form, scent, and voice. And nimble and quick, you increase your speed by 15 feet. Additionally, when you successfully make an athletics check to dodge an attack directed at you, you can immediately move 15 feet. Oh, that is fun.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Their Mikyo is Deep Fog, which costs 1 key point. Create a fog bank in a 50-foot radius within 100 feet, which obscures anything in it. Characters in this fog cannot see anything beyond 25 feet. Your allies and you are unaffected. The fog persists for 10 minutes.
And for those who don't remember, obscured as an awareness condition makes anyone afflicted by it take a -1 penalty on awareness checks and checks made to physically interact with obscured items or characters.
Mm-hmm. And
then her homeland ability.
Well, there's one more. Duplicates. Costs 1 key
point.
Yeah. Create up to 2 silent duplicates adjacent to you. On your turn, as an action, you can make each duplicate move and appear to take an action. They can defend against actions using your athletics, but they only have 1 vitality and disappear after 10 minutes.
I'd also like to note that appear needs 2 Ps.
And their homeland ability is Gearheart. By taking an action, you can inspect the machine to learn something useful about the last person to interact with the machine or what they did with it.
Yep. And so the reason I wanted to actually bring these up is so that when we're talking about the techniques and Mikyo that they can pick up from improvement, this gives people an idea of what their kit already is. And then when they hear the improvements, how that informs the rest of the playstyle as you can develop it with these pre-gens. That's why I wanted to go over. And I think we should do that with, and we'll start with Hugo when I get back to him. But I'll go back to Atsuko right now. The techniques she starts with are all out, irony, or coincidence, I should say. It's not an irony. On your turn, you can take a -1 penalty to all defense checks until the start of your next turn to give yourself a +1 bonus to all attack checks you make until the start of your next turn. It's a trade. You just trade off defense for attack.
Yep.
That's very nice, and it makes sense for her. Then Tooth and Claw. Your unarmed strikes deal 2 damage instead of 1. Additionally, when you roll 2 or more 6s when making an attack check using an unarmed strike, the target suffers the bleeding condition. That right there informs directly that you might want to take underhanded tricks in techniques. Like, that's what I'm talking about. That's why we should read these first 2 techniques and Mikyo, so people go, oh man, there's synergy there when we go down to the improvement area.
Yep.
Then her Mikyo, Overcharge costs 1 key point. Short circuit an electrical device you touch. The difficulty of the focus check required is determined by the storyteller and depends on the size and complexity of the target. Fixing the device requires a challenging 3 engineering check. Then Wind's Leap costs 1 key point. When you take a movement action to leap before the end of your turn, you double your base speed. Alternatively, when you fall, you can immediately perform this Mikyo to negate any falling damage. It's Feather Fall, Monk.
Yeah. Except better.
Yes, because it's a reaction. And then finally, her homeland ability is Folk Tales. Whenever you're required to make a knowledge check to know information about yokai, you automatically succeed. What? Oh, that's so good, Monk! Jeez. And then you can get Carmen's techniques in Mikyo and her homeland ability.
Yep. So for Carmen, first with techniques, we have key blocking strikes. Whenever you hit a character with an unarmed strike, instead of dealing damage, you can reduce the character's current key points by 1. And Stunt Driver. When you make a check to maneuver a vehicle/mount and the result is less than 4 successes, you treat the check as if the result was 4 successes.
Isn't 4 successes one of the higher difficulties, too?
Yeah.
That's guaranteed success to most checks for driving.
Unless you're doing some crazy, ridiculous stuff that requires the high end of checks,
Yeah, the 5 or the 6.
which, given Carmen's personality and what's hinted at beforehand, is probably going to happen. We've seen the kind of stuff that the wheelman archetype gets into in all manner of fiction.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've seen Gunsmith Cats. We know how this works.
Yep. We've also seen Drive.
Mm-hmm. And I could hear somebody go, "Do you mean the Kamen Rider, or do you mean the movie?" Yes.
Yes.
But the Mikyo she has are God's Left Eye, which costs 1 key point. Open your eyes to the intentions of a character you can see within 50 feet. The storyteller will tell you what that character is going to do on their next turn. You and anyone you warn gain a +1 bonus to oppose these actions.
There's the synergy with God's right eye below.
Mm-hmm. If I'm using Carmen and I'm using God's Left Eye, I am going to do the Jonathan Joestar special.
The next thing you're gonna say,
Yep.
and it's Joseph.
Yeah, Joseph. I don't know why I said Jonathan.
Because the next thing you were going to say was I don't know what. Never mind.
Oh.
The joke is dead.
Yeah.
I killed it.
Second Mikyo she has is Spiritual Armament, costs 1 key point. Form 1 melee weapon with the 2-handed trait, or 2 melee weapons without the 2-handed trait from your key for 1 hour. When using these weapons, you can roll a focus check instead of a melee check.
I think those are what's listed in her weaponry area too, because they say twin spirit swords and spirit greatsword.
Being able to summon and utilize weaponry from magic energy. Why do I feel attacked?
I don't know, Monk. I don't know. And then her homeland ability, Monk?
Yep. Astronaut training. You are immune to the nauseated condition. Additionally, you can hold your breath for 30 minutes instead of 1 minute.
Nice. And so I only brought up the homeland abilities because each of these characters comes from a different world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Aisha comes from Steel Court, and Atsuko comes from the Katsukuni, and of course Carmen comes from Refuge, and then Hugo is coming from Fifth Street. So before I actually go into Hugo's techniques in Mikyo that he can learn, we'll go into his techniques in Mikyo that he starts with. Eagle Eye. You never take a penalty when making an attack check to make an aimed attack, which, again, going back to the combat, aim action. Focus your next attack action on a vital location. If your next action is to take a strike or perform a Mikyo that targets a single character and deals damage, you can make a single melee, marksmanship, or focus check at a -1 penalty to deal 3 extra damage and cause the targeted character to suffer the bleeding condition. This Eagle Eye negates that -1 penalty. Additionally, you do not hit a bystander when you roll no successes on an attempt to hit a character in a crowd with a ranged attack. So, no friendly fire, no penalties. That's fucking busted, and I love it. Iron Body. Your unarmed strikes deal 2 damage instead of 1 and have the parrying and heavy strike traits. Oh, for that we have to go to the armory real quick for traits. Where is the armory? Right there. Parrying. When you use this weapon to block an attack, the attacker takes a -1 penalty to their next attack check against you. And, of course, heavy strike. Characters attempting to block attacks made with this weapon take a -2 penalty to their melee check. Makes sense, considering he has a robot arm. Additionally, when you make a check to defend against a shove attack and the result is less than 4 successes, you treat the check as if the result was 4 successes. So when people are trying to shove you, you basically just don't move.
No selling. Gotta love it.
Yep.
Also, Mario says, so Zen, what the opening of a Ryan Gosling Kamen Rider be? I'm just a writer? I'm gonna say no. Even though I love how how it was supposed to be this star vehicle for Greta when it came to that Barbie movie, and instead everyone was talking about Ryan Gosling.
He sold that movie.
Yeah, I just
But-
can't help but enjoy the irony.
I know. But the Mikyo that he gets are Grasping Vines, which cost 1 key point. Sprout 15-foot-long prehensile vines from your arms, which can be used as whips. These whips are highly concealable and remain for 1 hour. When you attack with these whips, you can roll with your focus instead. And then Gray Frequency costs 1 key point. Place an infrasonic seal on a surface you touch, which lasts 1 day. When a character comes within 10 feet of the seal, it emits a frequency which causes them to suffer the grappled condition until they make a difficult 4 endurance check. You are messing with their brain using sound they cannot hear. Then the Homeland ability, Lady Luck. At the start of every session, you get a pool of 3 tokens. Anytime you make a check, you can use a token to gain a +1 bonus to the check before or after the roll. That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
And then the techniques in Mikyo he can learn as part of improvement. First technique, Blood Magic. After dealing damage to a character, you lower the number of key points required to perform any Mikyo by 1 to a minimum of 0 until the beginning of your next turn. So if your first action that turn hits somebody and deals damage, your next action that turn is going to be a free Mikyo. I'm sorry. Oh, I hit you. Here are my whips. Here we go. And we'll see if there are other Mikyo that just oh god. And then Hunting Companion. You gain a small or medium animal. Your companion understands that simple orders like go here and more complex orders like bring me that thing. Between missions, you can replace your current companion. And it's specifically talking about the small or medium animal templates as found in the system book under the Rogues Gallery. You basically get one of those.
Mm-hmm.
And then Keen Smell. You gain the Keen Smell special sense. With this, you gain a +1 bonus to awareness checks, and if something within 30 feet of you has a familiar or potent scent, you immediately sense it. Nice. So then we get the new Mikyo. Blooming Blades costs 1 key point. Sprout 3 razor-sharp flowers, which can be used like shuriken and cause characters hit by them to suffer the bleed condition. When attacking with these shuriken, you can roll with your focus instead of marksmanship. Shit, I'm out of bullets, Monk. Guess I just gotta grow some more.
I may be out of shells, but I'm not out of spells.
And remember, if you hit them previously and you have blood magic, you know, you can just point to, if I were playing Hugo, I would for shits and giggles, if I learned Blooming Blades and blood magic as part of my advancement in the campaign, I would have a scrap of a very long and thin scrap of cloth, so that when I'm out of bullets but I hit somebody and I'm about to use Blooming Blades, puts on headband, taps it, infinite ammo. Because, yes, I will make a Solid Snake reference, fuck y'all. Then there's Coat of Thorns, 1 key point. Briefly sprout long thorns from your body, dealing 3 points of damage to any character currently grappling you and ending the grapple.
Yes?
You know what this is, right?
Yes? You might want to give people a bit of a hint.
No. You do it better than me this time, Monk. Go ahead.
No, you're getting this one.
But I don't want to. For this is probably seen in how many games though, Monk? This is actually a case of do you have how little this narrows it down?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure people have seen plenty of games where a guy grabs somebody and then spikes come out of him into the next enemy.
Yeah.
It's great. I love it. Which one did you have in mind specifically? Because I was thinking Yoshimitsu.
For whatever reason, all I could think of was, give me a hug.
Okay. Give me a hug. What? Dies. Dies of cringe. But the last Mikyo that Hugo can learn is Wild Speech, which costs 1 key point. Enable yourself to understand and be understood by all animals for 1 hour. This allows you to give complex commands, ask questions, and use social actions on animals. Monk, it's a druid, but actually useful. Or I should say, it's druid's wild speech, but actually useful.
Mm-hmm.
Talk with animals, but actually useful, goddammit. Because you can use social actions on them.
Yep. So the next one is Osamu Okada, and his appearance is making me feel called out.
I can't imagine why.
Let's see. Play Osamu if you want to be a master manipulator who can talk their way through any problem. You like to disguise yourself and infiltrate enemy groups. You like to use tools and poisons to get the upper hand. And for whatever reason, looking at his art, I keep being reminded of Greed.
Kind of. But Monk, looking at the color scheme, it's just a reverse you.
That's what makes it worse. But its techniques are impactful argument. When you cause a character to suffer a mental state, the difficulty to end the mental state is 1 level higher. And
for those who don't remember mental states, those are things that are caused by social actions.
Mhm.
When you do a social action like charm or convince, dishearten, taunt, or threaten, it inflicts a mental state on them. And if it's the normal mental state, it has an average 2 resistance or focus check. If it's an advanced form of the mental state, it has a difficult 4 mental resistance or focus.
Mm-hmm. But the other one that he has is List of Excuses. We can think of plenty of people who have that as their feature. If you fail a convince social action to deceive a target, you can immediately re-roll the check once to attempt to retry. Probably by adding in that you're just a layman.
Monk, let's not insult Osamu that way.
Fair.
Osamu seems a lot cooler.
Mm-hmm. So then we have the Mikyo. Touch of Time, 1 key point. Make a focus check to cause an object or piece of cover you touch to rapidly age and erode. The object or piece of cover lowers its vitality by double the number of successes you rolled. You don't have to break through the door if there is no door because it rotted away.
Yep.
And Visions of Desire, costs 1 key point. Glimpse the most powerful desire of a character within 25 feet. This desire might be physical, such as money or a particular object, or it might be intangible, like companionship or acceptance from a person. I was kidding about the greed comparison.
I mean, we've already made a few other Full Metal Alchemist comparisons.
And spoiler warning, I have a feeling we're going to be making more by the end of the week. Anyways, his homeland ability is Spirit Sight. By taking an action, a character with Spirit Sight can perceive things in the spirit world for 10 minutes. However, while using this sense, the character takes a -1 penalty to awareness checks when dealing with things in the material world, as they have a hard time determining what exists in the spirit world and what exists in the material world.
I would like to point out that Osamu here is also from is also from Nakatsukuni, but his homeland ability is different from Atsuko's. So there are multiple homeland abilities.
And as far as the techniques that he can learn, first is Aura of Authority. When the alert level is at either alert or high alert, civilians assume you are a law enforcement official. Then Forensics Expert. By taking 2 actions, you can analyze a body to find any wounds and determine what caused them. Additionally, when you assassinate a character, the wound can only be found with a difficult 4 medicine check.
That could be useful.
Yep. Mental Math. You gain a +2 bonus to your awareness skill base to defend against assassination actions. Additionally, when you take the assassinate action, you can make the skill check and, once you know the results, either go through with it or forego the action. So if you end up rolling bad, you can actually do takebacks.
I am going to say, Monk, they did something wrong.
What? Typo?
I mean, technically, remember, without the E is to go without. Forgo with an E is to go before. Forgo without an E is to do without. And in there, to forego the action here in context is to do without the action. So there should not be an E in forgo there.
Mm-hmm.
I have to bring this up because I created that mnemonic to help Matt and Nami when we were using forgo when we had forgo the word in editing.
Yeah.
But yeah, mental math allows you to say, I'm going to use the assassinate action. Oh wait, no, I'm not. Never mind. And for those of you who don't remember the assassinate action, if you are considered hidden from your target or they do not suspect you mean them harm, and you are within 50 feet, and you are unarmed or wielding a weapon without the loud trait, you can take an assassinate action to silently kill them. To do so, you must roll a stealth check against the target's awareness skill base. If you succeed, you instantly kill the target without alerting anyone who wasn't directly observing them. If you fail, you deal no damage and are perceived by the target and any characters in the area. Additionally, the scuffle begins to attract attention. If the combat isn't ended in 3 rounds, any allies of the targeted character in the area arrive.
Mm-hmm.
On the scene and enter the initiative order. And then there was the addition that if the threat rating for a player character or an NPC is above rank 1 when they're being the target of an assassination, then the stealth check occurs, and then they immediately have to roll a marksmanship, melee, or focus check depending on their chosen weapon against the target's athletics or melee check. And then if the character is suffering the paralyzed condition, you automatically succeed any necessary checks to take the assassinate action.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the reason this is so cool for Osamu is because he has those abilities that allow him to make people not think he's a threat.
Pretty much. But what we essentially have here is a feint action that's actually useful.
Yep. And then is Mikyo?
Mm-hmm. So his first Mikyo that he can learn is Odious Mask, which costs 1 key point. Make a focus check to weave an aura of disgust around a character within 15 feet who fails an opposed resistance check, which imposes a -1 penalty to charm or convince any character they encounter for 1 day. Stink Bomb.
Yep. You magically stink bomb them.
Yeah, I could see someone who's playing Osamu who's a bit more of a prankster to just casually stink bomb somebody as they're walking past them in a room.
Yeah, but key points are something you don't want to spend frivolously. You want to use them effectively.
Yeah. And we have Spatial Impulse, which costs 1 key point. Make a focus check to shoot a blast of ki at all characters in a 15-foot radius area adjacent to you. Any of these characters who fail an opposed athletics check or strength check are pushed 15 feet away and suffer the prone condition. It's a ki grenade.
It's Shinra Bancho, Monk. It's Payne's Shinra Bancho.
Yep. And we have Spatial Portal, costs 1 key point. Create a 1-foot diameter black portal on a surface you touch, and a portal on a surface within 50 feet. You can reach through the portals to grab or manipulate an object adjacent to the other portal. The portals close at the end of your turn.
Not quite the portal gun, but good enough.
Mhm.
So, and then the final pre-generated character is Satoshi Asano. He's also from Nakatsukuni. It says, play Satoshi if you like to be able to manipulate the battlefield. This might appeal to you, Monk. He's also using a meteor hammer, which also might appeal to you, considering you
That's not a meteor hammer. That's a Kusarigama.
Oh, it is. Yes, I didn't see the blade. That's my bad. But I will put it this way: Kusarigama are basically meteor hammers attached to the end of Kama. So that is my bad, though. Yeah, I didn't see the blade for a second there. But you when you're not doing polearm brain rot, I know that you also like unorthodox weapons. I guess is the best way to put it.
Yes.
But play Satoshi if you like to be able to manipulate the battlefield. You like using utility abilities in creative new ways. You like using poisons and staying unseen in combat. I mean, they said that about a couple characters. I'm like, well, yeah, they're ninjas. Like, part of me is just like, well, yeah, they're ninjas. But the techniques Satoshi has: Enchanting Seal. By taking 2 actions, you can trace a seal on a weapon, giving it one of the following traits for 10 minutes. Parrying, Heavy Strike, Precise, or Rending. We've already been over parrying and Heavy Strike. Precise: when you take the aim action with this weapon, you do not take a penalty to make the subsequent attack check. So Precise is basically Eagle Eye, but less, and also you have to put it on the weapon. And then, of course, Rending: when you use this weapon to make a strike against a piece of cover or an object, you deal an additional 2 damage. Then Poison Master: when you poison a character, the difficulty to end the effects of the poison is 1 level higher. Additionally, the difficulty to recognize a poisoned food or drink you prepared is Master 5 instead of Challenging 3. Wow. Yeah, as a Poison Master, if you're going to kill somebody, well, they're probably going to die. Now, this is misspelled. The first Mikio, Breathe of Fire, is misspelled. It should be Breath of Fire. Also, great game series. Ignore the 6th game. It doesn't exist. Breath of Fire, 1 key point. Make a focus check to exhale a wave of fire at all characters at a 15-foot radius adjacent to you. If any of these characters who fail an opposed athletics check... any of these characters... not if. I input if there on accident. Any of these characters who fail an opposed athletics check take 3 damage and suffer the burning condition. And then Particle Wall, 1 key point. Throw up to 6 small cubes of condensed matter to 6 points within 50 feet. Each cubes, that's supposed to be each cube, singular, expand to fill a 5-foot cubic area and count as cover with 10 vitality. After 10 minutes, the cubes dissolve. This is battlefield manipulation at its finest, Monk.
Yep.
I'll throw a cube here, and here, and here, and here, and here, and here, and they're now walls. Fuck y'all. Yeah, he has is it Kusarigama and a dart gun. Oh, interesting. His homeland ability, now again, like I said, he's another person from Nakatsukuni, but his homeland ability is different from the other 2 people, Osamu and Atsuko from Nakatsukuni. Poltergeist. While in the spirit world, you can interact with things as if you were in the material world, but to take actions, you must spend 1 point of key per action. And then in his improvements... for techniques, Hidden Blade. By taking 1 hour, you can conceal a weapon with the concealable or highly concealable traits in a mundane item. A character must make a Master 5 awareness check to spot this weapon. However, converting the weapon between forms takes an action. That's kind of fun.
I'd say that it'd proc very well with his dart gun.
Yeah.
Actually, it would proc very well with the chain sickle as well, because that's also concealable.
Yep. Keen Preparation. Once during each mission, you can take an action to produce a single general tool with a cost of 1 or 2 from a pocket or bag without paying the cost to requisition it. The item must be returned to the armory after the mission. Subspace pocket for 1 use. Very nice. Subtle sorcery. You can perform Mikyo even when you don't have a free hand. Remember, everybody, the reason they need to have a hand is because they're making one of the 9 seals of the Kuji-in to perform Mikyo at all. This means that you've practiced enough that you don't need that as a focus anymore. Additionally, when you perform a Mikyo, you can make a stealth check to do it without anyone noticing. And then the 3 Mikyo that they can learn are Caustic Rain, costs 1 key point. Make a focus check to hurl acid orbs at all characters in a 20-foot radius area within 50 feet of you. Any of these characters who fail an opposed athletics check take 1 point of damage at the beginning of each of their turns until they take 2 actions to clean it off. Very cool. Draining Grasp, 1 key point. Make a focus check to siphon away the ki of a character you touch who fails an opposed resistance check, lowering their current ki points by up to 3 points and raising your own by the same amount. I'm low on ki, give me yours. And then Kitsunebi is the proper name, but it's Foxfire here. 1 key point. Make a focus check to cause a target you touch who fails an opposed athletics check to suffer the burning condition until they take 2 actions to put it out. This fire is not put out by environmental hazards, and the target need not be flammable. So, if you remember, the burning condition goes out if you do certain things, especially if you get hit by, water and such. But this is Kitsunebi. This is Kitsune Fire, Fox Fire. And it doesn't go out unless you put it out. Almost like Greek Fire.
Mm-hmm.
But you can see how this guy is kind of trained to be like a fuck you and fuck your friends sort of a build.
Yeah. Now after that, there's the Armory pamphlet, which more or less covers what we already talked about last time.
Yep. And I've only been reading from it as for reminders.
Yep. After that is the reference sheet, which again covers stuff we covered before. The final thing, and we're not going to get into the details of it, is the adventure book.
Yeah. The one thing I do want to say about the reference sheet is the same thing that we said last time. Certain things need a little more guidance, such as what difficulty values are used where.
Mm-hmm.
There's no real examples.
Yeah. Now, the adventure that's given in the adventure book is equal parts the GM's guide for the first 10 pages, and then the remaining pages are a 5-chapter mission. So, obviously, with the storyteller's guide, it's covering some stuff we covered beforehand.
Yeah.
What is a storyteller, describing the world, all of that kind of stuff.
And tips on how to be a good storyteller, like avoiding railroading and such things.
I do like the fact that that in Running Shadowscar, it has a whole section called "Think of it as a spy thriller." I think that is an important thing to nail down to people, because I know I keep telling this story many, many times, but it's a story that perfectly encapsulates a certain issue. Once upon a time, I was running Lex Arcana, and I had informed the players, just because this is taking place in historical Imperial Rome, do not assume that this is going to be akin to Gladiator or Spartacus. This is an investigation-leaning campaign. Think less of that, think more of the X-Files. And truth be told, I'd say a similar thing with Shadowscar, although I wouldn't use the X-Files because there's more appropriate examples. Lex Arcana is pretty restrained on the supernatural, and in terms of like casting and the like, it's mostly divination. That's why I used X-Files in that sense. with Shadow Scar, well, there's plenty of anime you could dip into regarding this.
Well, actually, I'll read that. Actually, there's a small sidebar that says references.
Yep.
And it says Shadow Scar is derived from a few different inspirations, so there are a few places you can look to for reference. Obviously, there are a lot of anime inspirations, and we would suggest checking out shows like Demon Slayer, Naruto, Cowboy Bebop, and Jujutsu Kaisen. There are also a lot of wonderful ninja sources like the Tenchu video games. Monk, they do know us. Equally important, though, are what I like to call secret agent sources. These include games like Rainbow Six Siege and movies like Men in Black, James Bond, or Jason Bourne. These inspirations are excellent for helping to nail the secret agency part of Shadow Scar.
There's one that I would add, even though it's jank as all hell.
Oh,
Alpha Protocol.
Yeah, Alpha Protocol would work. There's so it's very clear that the what they're going for is the more actiony version of Secret Agents.
In that regard, it's of the secret agent ones. I think the only one that's sort of the odd man out would be James Bond, or rather, let me rephrase that. I wouldn't hyper focus on James Bond with this,
Unless you're doing a primarily social campaign.
Yeah.
James Bond makes for a wonderful social campaign. Even looking at the Daniel Craig stuff that turned very actiony in the very end.
Mm-hmm.
The big thing is like Jason Bourne is straight up probably the most actiony of those three when we're looking at hard action. Men in Black is obviously very actiony, but Men in Black is also comedy.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot to be
Could
taken
we also
from
throw in
those.
Hellboy?
I would love, yes, absolutely. Hellboy would definitely be another one to fit. What else? Kingsman. Kingsman would probably be a good one to add there.
Oh.
But I mean, the thing is, they say think of it as a spy thriller, and most of these movies are, in one way, shape, or form, spy thrillers at core with varying amounts of action.
Mm-hmm. This might be a bit of a stretch, but there's one other I'd throw in, and this is definitely a stretch, but hear me out. Burn Notice.
No, that one's good.
Burn Notice
That one's actually
Leverage.
really good. I can see Leverage. No, Burn Notice is good because Burn Notice is very much on the whole by the book being an agent sort of thing, even after he's been burned.
Mm-hmm.
That one's actually really good for it, to be honest. If I had to think of inspirations for spy thriller, for the type of anime or game, though the animation and the rush on this anime was kind of bad, the story itself is really good if you look at the source material. Tesla Note. I would absolutely recommend Tesla Note for that sort of inspiration. Let me check my anime, see if I have anything else. I have a lot of anime. Technically, Chorus could fit. I mean, he's a one-man spy thriller organization, but still.
What about City Hunter?
Let's be honest here, Monk. City Hunter isn't known for its spy thriller part, but technically, sure. You are technically correct. The best kind of correct. Let's see, what else? Fire Force, while it doesn't encompass all of the Shadow Scar agency, it's definitely like some of the clans would fit into how Fire Force's titular force works.
Mm-hmm.
It Invaded, Monk.
Yeah.
We just recently watched that. It Invaded would work.
And if I'm being honest, a lot of anime that fall into the Secret Guardians archetype that we've talked about on Geek Watch would fit that bill.
Yes, absolutely.
And for those who didn't watch that episode, watch it. I really like how that one turned out in terms of the world building we did. But for those who didn't watch, what I'm referring to with Secret Guardians is the archetype of an anime that depicts some organization that is protecting normal folk from monsters that they may or may not acknowledge exist.
And Monk, here's where another reference comes in of references we've already made tonight. The Elric brothers from Full Metal Alchemist cover that archetype.
Yeah. But the adventure itself, Mask of the Green Demon, is a 5-chapter adventure that is meant to be a lengthier campaign to be run over the course of 5 to 6 sessions. Though each of the chapters could be I won't say they're fully self-contained because it is still focused on the titular Green Demon.
Yeah.
But they can be run not too far removed from one-shots.
Yeah. Well, and there's actually a really nice note near the beginning that says that if people have come in from Eyes in the Darkness, you can actually treat this as a semi-sequel to Eyes in the Darkness. And so some of the character interactions change, and also you'd probably get some character advancement at the beginning of the game.
Yeah. Yeah. For my perspective, the only thing I'd really change with the PDF package is maybe have the maps that are in the module as its own separate zip file that could be put, so you could put that into a virtual tabletop.
Yeah, that would be very, very, very useful. They're really nice maps, though, and it looks like it's the same artist for most of them, Matt Henderson. It says. Very well done. Very, very, very good map design, and especially with the grid semi built into the art. That's just kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like in certain places, you can see where the grids are because you have to, but in other places, it's like floor tiles or broken, a table that is naturally sectioned in that way or whatever. It's cool. I like it.
And part of the reason I say that that's something I would suggest is within the starter set on Drive-Thru RPG, there was a little bit of an ad for Syrinscape, which they've partnered with to have its own sound set for this module. And Syrinscape can be used at physical campaigns, but more often I see it being used in virtual tabletop affairs. Now, granted, some VTTs have their own built-in audio system, but I don't use it. The key thing is, I think that having just a zip file that has the individual maps as their own images, I think would be a bit more fitting if somebody wants to run this on a VTT.
Yeah.
Could they extract the images from the PDF? Yes,
absolutely.
But you have that border thing to deal with.
Yeah. It's also I'd like to note, looking at some of the bits and pieces of each chapter here, even at the end of chapter 5, there's story hooks for additional story. So it seems like this module might play into some larger modules that they're planning. Or maybe those hooks are just there to give you ideas to make your own stuff from there.
Honestly, I can go either way.
I think they'll go. I think it'll do both. It's very clear that this is this is another sandbox type game, because from the image of going back to the lore book, it's very clear from the image of the mosaic that we got that there's a bunch of stuff. Like the mosaic is a bunch of these circles with names of places on them, with their statuses on them. For example, the four main realms that are dealt with in Eyes in the Darkness and in Mask of the Green Demon are Nakatsukuni, Steel Court, Fifth Street, and Refuge. And these are the four biggest circles in the mosaic, and they are all status infected. Then there are a few other named bubbles. There's 6 of them: Cranberry Lane, Grey Burrow, White Squall, Green Grave, Mithra, and Gallant Vale.
I do wonder if, given that you mentioned the whole infected thing, there's a couple of things I could see happening. And this is me this is me spitballing a little bit, but hear me out. One of them is gazetteers for Uncharted Worlds, or even just an Uncharted Worlds expansion that just has a bunch, or it could be a chapter in the full book. That's certainly a possibility. The second thing is some sort of mechanic when it comes to levels of yokai infection. Not far removed from the whole yokai purification thing we saw in Nioh, which, by the way, Nioh 1 and 2 would make great study material.
Nioh 1 and 2 would be good for the yokai part, absolutely. And some of the ninja part.
Mm-hmm.
But the big thing I wanted to note was the 6 smaller circles that are all named have status clear. Then there are 5 other circles that have no names but a yellow status indicator that says scanning, which indicates that maybe the Shadowscar Agency is looking into those. And then there are a bunch of circles with no names that all have a blue status that says unknown. And so it's very clear that while they have an idea for specific worlds, and we even read that in the Dicebreaker article, that there are specific worlds Cody and the crew want to show off, they also don't want to limit people. So the Mosaic can have as many worlds as you want in it, and you can design your own.
Do you remember the Razeldon continent in Sword World?
Yeah.
How it is intentionally not fully explored because it's meant to give people a keep on the Borderlands frontier, unexplored frontier kind of story seed. Mm-hmm. I could see that with the Uncharted worlds, where they are a blank spot that tables can fill in with whatever type of world they want to run in.
Well, and I'd like to note that the name of that image is Local Mosaic Map.
Mm-hmm.
Those are only the places that the Shadowscar Agency is aware of from Nakatsukuni. The ones that are unknown are just the ones that they know. It's like looking at the night sky and seeing a star but not knowing its name. You can see the star, you just don't know which one it is yet because you haven't measured it and looked at it and seen if it's a named star already or not.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine that's what those bubbles are like. It's a bubble that they can see, but they haven't even tried to start scanning it. They just know that there's a location there.
Yep. And because of that, obviously we spoke highly of the game during our run through of Eyes in the Darkness. This is just a case of we're already sold on it. You don't need to sell it to me harder.
It's the Harry Osborn Peter Parker meme. Whoa! I was already sold on it. You don't need to tell me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
No. What I want to say, first of all, specifically something I would like to say. Hold on. To Rob, to Rob Barefoot. That was the name given to me. The media ambassador at our Talsorian Games. I very much appreciate that you gave us this opportunity. I very much appreciate that you had a very timely response. I know you said that you thought it was delayed, but I thought it would have been delayed further, to be honest, because of screening and the fact that you're all preparing for the release.
And the fact that we are smaller fish, relatively speaking.
Relatively speaking, we are a tiny niche podcast that we love our dedicated audience. Thank you all, by the way. But we don't have the reach of some of the bigger people, and that's fine. We're just trying to reach who we can, where we can.
Mm-hmm.
But Rob, I really appreciate this. I was already sold on it. Mildred was already sold on it. We want Shadowscar. We absolutely want Shadowscar. and we've been big fans of R. Talsorian and the Pondsmith family for a long time. So seeing that the Pondsmith family is keeping up the pedigree of making kick-ass games, we're excited. This When we received this starter set, I was a little worried because I saw that most of the materials we had already seen in Eyes of Darkness. But there's enough here, including the things like the mosaic map and some of the other images and some of the implications on the character advancement sheets and things like that have given us a lot more meat to bite into. And I really do, as I said, recommend specifically for the 10 Heavenly Escapes techniques that there is an indication of whether it is exhaustible, is it a finite resource, or if it's not finite. And if it is finite, if there's a way to restore it. And it needs to be on the sheet so that when people make that particular advancement choice, they have all the information necessary to know whether this is something they want to pursue or not. Because that's a lot to invest into. Two advancement points is 2 sessions where you didn't, bump up your ki or bump up your vitality or work towards your attributes. That's 2 sessions that you decided, I want this technique. And that's important. So I definitely, that's probably my biggest recommendation. Obviously, there are small, copy editing changes here and there, some misspellings. That happens. You're always going to miss 1 or 2. I'm the editor-in-chief for our own project, so I understand it. I'm sure that as many times as I've poured over our documents, I've still missed stuff. That's all fine and dandy. Those are things you guys can change at your leisure. But that one change regarding the technique, that's my biggest recommendation. Beyond that, I don't really have... Oh, the other one. Specific, concrete examples of what type of actions entail the difficulty levels. We always, here in the temple, Monk and myself always continually and constantly rage on about the same thing in every game we come across. Guidance is key. We are of the mindset that any game can be someone's first game, their first TTRPG ever. I anticipate Shadowscar is going to be the first TTRPG for a lot of younger people, especially because it's related to a lot of things that are in the cultural zeitgeist, especially, anime, video games, and so on. That sort of guidance is key to giving people a strong foundation to know what the upper and lower bounds are. As Monk will attest to, sometimes when we've asked for this, people are like, oh, you just want an itemized list of everything you can and can't do. And as I always respond, no. We want an upper bound and a lower bound. We want to know what the range is so that we know what we're working in between. And that's going to help players, that's going to help GMs, that's going to help everyone in further enjoying your game. So those are my 2 very strong recommendations for consideration with maybe the actual starter set release and any improvements you can make to it for people who are going to get it after the review window.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I took that over, Monk. Go ahead.
No worries, man. A lot of the stuff that I wanted to say, you had added to it. I do hope that this is not an isolated case when it comes to us working with the media end of our Talsorian games in the future, because this is always a lot of fun, and this was an interesting challenge to try and cover what we already did, but in a way that was unique to this starter set, as opposed to just rehashing what we had said a few weeks back. And again, we're still small. Given our particular stature, this is always fun. And I hope to do this again, whether it be for some other release or for future stuff with Shadowscar. But I think with that, we've said just about everything that we can say with this kind of thing. So,
yeah.
With that said, I do want to sincerely thank everyone who took the time out of their schedule to come all the way to the temple and enjoy the madness that happens around here. Oh, let me pause the audio. So, obviously, tomorrow and Friday are going to be the 2 new seasons of Valley of the Judged. And Saturday will be the one-shot of 6083. Which, of course, will be a rare case of me not GMing.
He doesn't seem to want to let me GM, and I don't know why.
Oh, you will. It's just a matter of timing.
I blame you, Monk. I kind of want to GM something soon. After I get settled back in home.
Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, as mentioned before, this Sunday we will not be doing Geek Watch. We have something else in mind with the Gamescom Hangover Shit Show.
People are normal Geek Watch cast members that join us from time to time are free to join to enjoy video gamey goodness. Please do join us, in fact, guys.
Mm-hmm. And of course, even with that, there's still going to be a few interviews and side things that I'm going to be uploading when they happen. Because unfortunately, I can't put everything that I do over the course of a week in the usual schedule format. Because those are usually assuming that you're only doing one thing or only doing one stream. That's not the case with me. I mean, some days I'm going to only do one thing, but that's not always consistent. But with that said, we will be back here on Friday with the beginning of our look through Flux Fantasy. So until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk. Stay fucking frosty, everybody.
내 내 조심기